Joining us today for the Thrive Thursday Everyone Has a Story Author Spotlight Series. Today, I am joined by the author of Chapter 4 and Thrive Thursday Episode 7 guest, Dave Daniel. Dave, I am so happy to be here and spending some time with you to discuss your chapter and your journey of becoming a published author. All right, the first question I've been asking all of the chapter authors, back in around Thanksgiving of 2020, I reached out to a large number of Thrive Thursday guests to tell them about my idea of putting together a book. It was actually over 60 guests. Wow. Well, out of that, only 13 people responded with a yes. So that gets me thinking.
Wow.
Why did you say yes? And why do you think others did not?
Well, that's a great question. And I'm blown away by those numbers because simply what an amazing opportunity this is. And thank you for having me on this. This is so cool. So cool. But yeah, when you first said 60, I was thinking maybe 40 or some said yes. There was a few, but to hear that kind of number, my first thoughts are fear. I have been around in so many situations, and especially with the nonprofit that I do and the work that I do and raising children, for Pete's sakes, you see fear all the time. And, fear gets in your head and it starts whispering to you, no, it's too much work. You're busy enough with the kids. You're busy enough with your life. You're never going to have time to do all this stuff. It's best just to sit by the side and let it go on by. And I really believe that's what these people have done. And they've missed out on a huge, huge opportunity to share their story. Because if you send an email to 60 some people, I'm sure these people had significant stories. Right. And it's a shame that those aren't being shared, because every little story, I always think back of how I was raised and my mom telling me about how, every person has their own God-given talent. And there's somebody out there that doesn't know how to use theirs, or they're scared until they hear your voice. And when they hear that you have shared some of the same background, the same fears, the same worries, but you took that step anyway, it gives them all the courage, and you're influencing other people, which in my mind is what life is all about.
Wow. So what would the advice be to that person that maybe it has that fear, or they don't think they're, I like to say, quote, enough, good enough, smart enough, that, have the skills to do whatever the task is at hand? What would your advice be to that person?
That's such a big spotlight of what to say, but I really think it would be, because these things always run in my mind, is you will never know if you don't take the first step. The first step is by far, no matter if you're going into banking, mortgage, if you're going into a new career or anything, that first step is by far the scariest, because that means you've made the decision to go. And if you can get that one, the next ones just get easier and easier and easier. Sure, there's going to be ups and downs with like all of life, but that's usually it. And that would be my advice, is take the first step, because you do not want to live your life going, well, I'll never know. At least you tried, because regret is one of the worst feelings of life, to sit and go, what could have been? What could have been? Who could have heard my voice? Who could I influence?
Or who needed
to hear that at that time? And isn't that the serendipitous way the universe works? Yeah. You're put in situations where you're like, wow, it was like the preacher or the person giving the speech was talking straight to me. Right. It's so weird how that works, but in my opinion, it's the universe, it's God, it's whatever you believe in, but I really believe things are cosmic and work in patterns like that.
Agreed. Okay, so here's my first question.
Okay.
All right, it's a big one. It's a big one. But your chapter definitely is about taking action and executing a plan and believing that you can make a difference in this world. So I would like to know, do you believe that we all can make a difference in the world?
Without a doubt, 100% without a doubt. There are, what I learned from my experience, not to give too much away, but what I learned from my experiences, and we kind of touched on them a minute ago, there's so many people waiting for a sign, a beacon, something to happen. And I think when you decide, I'm going to step up, I'm going to, in this situation where I'm nervous, I'm very scared, I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm going to raise my hand, I'm going to say something, I'm going to make a bold move. It just sends massive ripples. Massive ripples.
Oh, I totally believe in those ripples.
Uh,
You are
they're
so
ripples are the
correct.
best.
Those ripples, that's where the magic happens. And it's
Exactly.
funny that when I was speaking with Ananya, another author
Yes.
in the book, she said something extremely similar to that. Like
So
she said exactly the same thing, where she said, don't ever be afraid of that, because those ripples is kind of the wave that will
exactly.
take you into that next step. So there, you cannot wait for those signs. There will never be. Yes.
There is a band, which I have all behind me. These are their posters. Pearl Jam.
Yeah.
Pearl Jam is one of my favorite bands. There's a lyric in one of their songs that says the smallest wave or smallest ripples make the biggest waves. And that's how it is. You influence so many people because it goes on even after you pass away, it goes through, and your children, your friends, relatives hear what you did or see just old pictures. We also see old pictures of our grandparents and uncles and stuff like that. These are, knowing that you can do something to make a difference it's the sweetness of life. It's what we're here for, is to help each other and to make those kind of differences. So that's what I would say. I would say
yes,
everyone everybody has that in them, that light. No matter how much you've gone through, no matter how much darkness, everybody has that light. It's just embracing it.
Agreed. All right, so next question.
All right,
how important do you think attitude and perspective is to a community?
Oh God. So God, I have such a great point of view on this. And it's in the chapter, I do discuss a lot of this, but I hate to, it sounds so typical to say it's everything, but it really is. It's so your perception, and you can even take it down to a microcosm of just your personal life, not even your community. How you look at things is how your life is going to go. If you focus on the bad, guess where you're going to go? Guess what your mind's going to repeat in the movies that play in your head? Same for a community. A community can get kicked, it can get beat down, it can have jobs leave, it can have horrible, catastrophic things happen. And if you focus on those negative feelings, and it's just, well, here it goes again, we're going down this hole of just nobody cares about us. It's almost like you're asking the universe to just keep sending you more. And if you focus on these positive movements, and even though they're tiny baby steps, you keep focusing on them, they start building, because the people around you start to see those positives because you're focused on it. Then another person starts to focus on. Now there's 2 of us, then there's 4 of us, 16, 32. It just keeps taking off. Positive mindset in my chapter is what all I talk about, because it is made in the last almost 10 years that this has been happening with me in Ashland, Kentucky. It was everything. The positivity, and that was our motto, was spread kindness and positivity because it works. It works. Negativity just it doesn't accomplish anything.
Do you think it takes more positivity to counter negative? Like, it seems like
Yeah.
negativity is really easy.
Oh,
Like you could
so
just go down that, you could just
who doesn't
spiral.
right? Who
Right?
doesn't like to complain? I mean,
Right.
we all do. We all have bad days. Me and my
Mhm.
wife were talking about this last week. Everybody has a bad day, but if somebody holds the door for you,
Yeah.
say thank you. There's no need for them to have to say, excuse me, can you say thanks? And you go, sorry, I'm having a bad day. We all do.
Yep.
But you're right. The negativity is an easy sale. And we
Yeah.
see it all the time, unfortunately, in our media. But it's constantly, because it seems like negativity riles people up more,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And
Yeah, it's
positivity,
almost like the negativity, people are very quick to band together to
right,
kind of feed into it, right?
right.
It kind of, not taking you back to a really old movie, but it's like the blob, right? It kind
Oh,
of like
yeah.
grows and
It's
grows and grows,
growing.
right?
It does.
But
Well,
the
you see it.
positivity, I almost feel like you have to like have 5 times the amount of
I
positive to
do. I
counteract
do.
the negative, right?
I do. And there's been times in my book, in my chapter, we talk about there's times it's easy to throw stones at the people trying to
Yeah.
be
Right.
positive because you're like, well, you're not even looking at what's happening and you're just living in a fantasy land. And that's not true.
No.
It's what the person that's trying to be positive is trying to accomplish is trying to change the narrative,
Yeah.
because you usually always see more of a change in your life when you focus on positivity. And it's always for the best. It's always for the best. Nobody says, I focus on the positivity all day and nothing's going my way. That's not true. Then
No.
you're not doing it. You're lying. If you focus on the positivity, you're lucky to be breathing. You're
Yeah.
grateful to have, legs and eyes and everything, and to be alive in such an amazing world. So positivity is everything. But I do agree, it seems like the negativity just takes over so fast, so
Yeah.
fast.
Yes.
So you got to be diligent. You got to be diligent with your positivity.
You
Very,
do.
you
It
do.
really, I think, like I said, it almost seems like you have to work a little bit harder,
You do.
but 100%, it is so worth it.
So
And
worth it.
you are correct. You can move mountains. You can
Really
make
can.
monumental change in your own life and others when you focus in on the positive. And you're
So true.
correct. Some
So
people may say, what are these people are living in like a dream world? Don't they
true.
see all of the bad things? Yes, we do. We
Yeah, we
do
do.
see. Yes.
And that's the thing is, yes, we can all sit around and be negative, but what's that doing? It's just making it worse. So why are we doing it?
Exactly. Okay. So here's the thing. So here you made this monumental change. You created this ripple going through. So my next question is, because you see this a lot. You see kind of a movement start and you see
Mhm.
everybody band together, and
Yeah.
that's glorious. But where it gets really difficult, and you even said for the last 10 years,
Mhm.
how do you keep the momentum going? Because that's where the challenge
Yeah.
really comes.
Sustaining positivity is maybe even harder than actually, like you said,
Yeah.
starting the process. Sustaining it, because you will have negativity that creeps in. You don't even realize it. And next thing you know, it's in your face yelling at you. And it's hard to at times to not throw your hands up because we're human and say, you know what, enough of this.
They
I'm done.
win.
I've done my part.
Right.
I'm checking out. You all deal with it. And God, that's such an easy thing to do. And I always think that, you're given these talents not to just do them for a while. Keep it going, keep it going. And the one, I'm trying to think of the best thing to say to keep that going is you really have to enjoy it. You do. I mean, like we were talking about with some of the talks that you've given, you have to enjoy it. And you have to get that feeling of going, this is what I love. And it's the only reason I've been able to sustain this movement for as long as it's been going and still going. One, because I love it. And two, surround yourself with people that love it too,
Mm.
because there's going to be times, just like a marriage, like any
Yep.
relationship, you're going to not have a good day. And you need that other person to say, man, you are doing great. Let's keep going. Let's keep going. Because it's hard to do by yourself. Almost everything is. It's very difficult. A great group around you helps a lot. And the people with this Build Ashland on my board of directors are huge. It's, you have to surround yourself with people that have the same passion you do, and you have to be passionate. You have to have the most passion to keep something sustained.
I think that's great advice. Number one, start with something that's in your heart, right? Because
Yes.
when it's in your heart and it's tied to your purpose,
Mhm.
coupled with sprinkling in your passion, then
Yeah.
that will keep you invested. And then, like you said, none of us can do things on our own. We're not designed that way. As human beings, we need to work in groups. We need to be with
do.
others, right? That's
Interact.
just part of our
Right.
makeup, our
Mhm.
physiological makeup. So
Agreed.
you're correct. Surround yourself with people that understand you, knows when you need that little pick me up, so that it's like, yeah, I know you got kicked a couple of times. It's
Right.
okay. Let's refocus.
Okay, let's keep
Let's
going.
see. Yeah,
We're
let's
making
see
a
where-
difference. Right. You
Yep.
have to have cheerleaders.
Yes.
And there's so many examples in our history as humans, like you were saying, when people are left alone, it never ends well.
Never.
It doesn't. You need that bond of, and like, we're all, whatever you believe in, we're all one. We're all here to wake up from the thought that we're all separate. We're all
Right.
the same.
We
And when we
are.
bond together, there's so much power. And that goes back to what we were talking about. That's how you destroy the negativity. That power of that oneness and that
I
power
think
of
you're right.
positivity just dominates it. It's not even a close fight.
Yeah, it's interesting, Dave, even going back to Thrive Thursday, right?
Yeah.
So again, I haven't done a Thrive Thursday episode since like maybe April. I ended it, right? And it's funny doing these as we're getting ready to launch the book. It's bringing back all these memories and all these feelings again, right? Like all of a sudden, like all this feeling is rushing through me again. And I keep thinking to myself, how is it that this group of strangers all have the same thought process and we're all aligned, right? But it's because the universe brought us together, because we do think alike and we are on the same path and we are looking to make the world a better place in whatever gift that we've been giving, blessed with. And we're sharing that light with the world. I mean, that's miraculous.
It is. You gravitate towards that. What is it? Your vibe attracts your tribe.
Wow, I like that.
The thing. It's such a 100% right on. Whatever you put out is what you're going to get back. And that's why that negativity and all that stuff, or that fear of not accepting that call that opportunity you shared with some people out of those 60 people. It's that fear, and it just pushes you away from coming together. And coming together always has amazing benefits. It's so awesome to be a part of things like this.
Agreed. All right. This has been fabulous. My last question. It's a big one. It's a big one. Okay. So you've learned so many lessons throughout your life, right? You've learned lessons, and I want to hear a lesson that you learned. And what advice would you give to our audience based on what you learned from that lesson?
Oh my gosh. All right. So let's say I'm going to dive into a little bit of honesty here. One is, I am one of these people that ever since I was a little kid, I wanted to get into a position where people around me respected me. They were like, Dave's a good guy. He really puts other people first. I've always had that innate sense. I've always wanted to be there.
Okay.
And so when what I talk about in the chapter happens, and you not by design, but you're kind of thrust into this position of going, we want you to talk here and you have to talk there and you have to talk to all these people, and we need you to galvanize the community and bring them together, because people were waiting for somebody to stand up. And even though I was like, no, I want the whole community to come together, I was thrown in this position. So what happens is when you get thrown into situations like this, we all have an ego. That ego can very easily, it's something that if I could give anybody advice, is always keep everything in perspective. Always know that nobody else around you is any better than you. Everybody has a talent. Everybody has something, because you can go down that road and you can lose sight
Dave,
of
I've
everything you
seen
started.
it. I've seen it a lot, and I've seen many a person implode from it.
I have too. And it's frightening, because you go, that would never happen to me. So when you do take these, this saying yes and being this person that goes out there and maybe influences people, always keep that in mind, of self-awareness, of being, nobody's any different. You got lucky and you're in a situation where people are listening to you, you're influencing them. Do not let that go to your head. And it's very easy to do, but like you said, you implode.
I've watched it.
Away.
I've seen it, and it's very
Frightening.
unfortunate, because again, going back as human beings, you are correct that no one is better than anyone else.
No.
We all have just different gifts.
Right.
And different purposes of why we're here on this earth, of whatever we're supposed to fulfill.
Correct.
And the minute that your ego takes over,
right,
there's going to be a correction.
It will.
There will be a correction.
It will. It happens, no matter how. It's almost, the more that you think it won't happen, it's going to happen.
Oh yeah.
So be aware of it. Be conscious, cognitive of that ego. The ego is one of the worst roommates you can ever have. They say some of the worst things to you. If I met my ego in real life, I'd probably punch him in the face. But it also keeps me on track sometimes. And it is, when you say yes and you get out there, always kind of keep that in perspective as you're influencing people. Because my mom always told me, I always seem to be mentioning my mom. She had a big influence.
Oh, moms are great.
They're the best.
Mom's special. They're very special.
They are. They're amazing. They're always your voice inside your head. And she always told me, she said, Dave, you'll never know who's all watching you.
Oh.
Always keep that. No matter when you're at your lowest, you think you're alone, somebody's watching and they're going, well, Dave did it.
That's right.
And that's something no matter what your endeavor is, always keep in mind. It won't steer you wrong.
And don't ever do anything that wouldn't make your mama proud.
Oh, I hear every night I close my eyes.
Dave, you are awesome. Thank you so much. Chapter 4 in the new Thrive Thursday book, and we cannot wait to read your full chapter. Take care.
Thank you, Laura. Bye-bye.